Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is the place to learn how to run your MSP, whether you're a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, my partner in crime. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Mr. Smith, how are you today?
Doing great, Paco. Doing great. As I like to say every now and then, any better than it be a sin.
We also like to welcome a returning guest on our podcast here. We have Rob Scott, Chief Innovator over at Monjur. Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Great to be with you guys again.
Awesome. Rob, before we go into kind of a little bit about the services and things of that nature, you have been on our podcast before, but for those that may not have seen you in that episode or may not know much about you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into the service known as Monjur?
Well, thank you, Paco. I'm a lawyer by training. I started practicing law in IT areas in the early 2000s, and by the mid 2000s had started practicing in managed services. And by 2020, I had helped several hundred MSPs develop their customer contracts, and I realized I had no mechanism to keep them updated. And so we created what's now called the Monjur platform, which is a AI-powered, SaaS-enabled legal service that delivers customer contracting solutions to the IT industry, including MSPs.
And this is such a service that's needed, in my opinion, because I believe that, and you could probably shed more light onto this, Rob, is that, MSPs, they always feel that when it comes to agreements, is such a divided bunch, whether they feel like they need agreements, they don't need agreements, their agreements are templates, their agreements that are not vetted by lawyers, and then all in between. Can you share a little bit more about what kind of made you come into the service of Monjur and how has it been addressing those needs for MSPs in the space?
Well, I think when I first started, a lot of people were making the transition from break fix and block of time type engagements to IT managed services, and they didn't really fully appreciate the differences from a legal perspective between those two models. And inherently with the MSP model are long-term non-cancelable for convenience customer contracts, and we started developing those for our clients. And when it comes to the various philosophies of customer contracting, I think the best way to think about that is the same way you think about operational maturity among MSPs in other areas, right? When you start out, you pull something off the internet, you glom it from a friend, you're doing anything you can to get an agreement together, to put it in front of the customer so they'll sign the agreement. You're not thinking about the legal implications of the agreement. You look at the agreement as necessary to get the deal, to get the money so you can get going. And as you grow in maturity, what you learn is that you've got more to risk. And it's not just about getting any contract to the customer, it's about getting the right customer contract, not only for that individual customer, but as you mature, creating a uniform set of online terms and conditions that all of your customers will be subject to. And so there's a progression of operational maturity when it comes to customer contracting for MSPs, just like any other aspect of evaluating an MSP.
It's one of those where I think over time where the agreements and the ability to do business has severely changed to the point where there's this misconstrued conception among my peers that believe that one agreement will rule them all. And it's the type of agreement that oftentimes gets a lot of those MSPs in trouble. They're including things that should be scope of work. A master service agreement should not be updated, and it ends up getting updated. There's a lot of everything in between, and along with other policies and addendums that probably should be applied as well. Yeah. When it comes to something like explaining that to an MSP, for them to really drive that home, how have you been able to find success to really explain to them that, yeah, you may think your agreement's okay, which is here nor there for wherever local court you're going to go to. Yeah. But how do you help prepare them to let them know easily that probably need a little bit more assistance in that realm?
Yeah, so one of the things that we created early on was an AI tool we call Lobby. And what Lobby does is it analyzes our prospective customers' customer contracts and benchmarks them against our industry-leading templates. So this solution will digest a MSA or service attachment and then give a report that I can then use when I have a consultation with the prospective client. And what I do in those consultations is tell them what's good in their agreements, tell them what's not so good in their agreements, but then most importantly, what's missing. And what you mentioned earlier, that a modern customer contract platform for MSPs is typically 8 documents. It's not just, most people think of customer contracts as the MSA or the statement of work. But in reality today, you need an MSA, you need one or more service attachments or statements of work, you need a data processing agreement for your regulatory compliance piece, you need a schedule of third-party services, which is your vendor list, to mitigate that third-party risk. And so there's a number of documents that you need to have as part of a comprehensive stack, and the typical MSP business owner can't get their arms around that adequately. Many lawyers that don't specialize in this field don't have a full comprehension of what's needed. And so if you're doing it yourself, you're at highly likely that you're exposing your MSP to unnecessary legal risk in an evolving risk market. That doesn't make a lot of sense. 15 years ago, people used to say, oh, I just do contracts on a handshake. That was a bad idea then. Now, it's like crazy to think about people would do that. Not to mention that for most MSPs that are operating in regulated markets, the regulations require you to have a written contract.
Yeah.
It's not even though it is a stupid idea, it's also illegal, depending on who your customers are. So, the idea of no customers, or I'm just going to pull something off the internet or take some vendor supplied form and not have it reviewed by a lawyer, these are all recipes for disaster for MSPs.
I think that for a lot of the MSPs, including the ones here as we're live in PAX 8 Beyond 24 at the beautiful Gaylord Convention Center on this last day, I would imagine that and I've heard this in our community as well from some members, not all, that they have this concept where, well, that's great. However, my client's not going to sign an X amount of pages of an agreement, being able to say, and it's going to delay my deal, or they're not going to want to sign it, so I'll lose this customer. What do you say to someone like that who just says, it's just not worth the hassle to go through these many, outside of it obviously being illegal in certain regulations, but how do we help educate some of those where, it doesn't necessarily need to be a cumbersome situation to have a good standing agreement signed between the MSP and the partner?
Yeah, and I agree with the sentiment that, legal is an impediment to deals. As a small business owner and someone responsible for sales and marketing myself, I used to refer to the legal department as the place where contracts go to die. So I understand the mindset of needing a legal solution that is designed to accelerate quote to cash, to streamline sales and contracting. And that's why Monjur is more than just a pure legal solution. We have thought through all of those details, and the way we implement our legal solution is by integrating it with our clients' existing quoting tools and sales processes, by embedding our smart hyperlinks into their quotes or proposals. The net effect of that is, even though our customer contract stack becomes very long and cumbersome, the reality is since it's presented in smart hyperlinks in the quote, and because all of those terms and conditions reside online, you're not overwhelming the customer with paper. If the customer wants to click into a particular thing and have a look, great. But they're not going to be overwhelmed by a giant stack of paper in the traditional sense, or a huge PDF that they got to sort through. So it's important to get both the comprehensive legal protections that are only available in this modern world through a pretty long set of agreements. But what we've done is we've streamlined quote to cash and accelerated the sales and contracting process by collapsing that contracting process into the quote and proposals phase and moving everything online for a single step for sales and contracting. And that has eliminated this concern for all of our 380 MSP clients that are currently on the platform.
Now, Rick, when it comes to agreements and contracts, obviously it's a super important thing for a lot of MSPs. How are you addressing that right now, and how have you tried to at least get better about how to advise your clients on some of those agreements?
Well, the answer to that is Monjur.
All right.
But at starting out, and I could say this: we've gone through an array of things, from taking a quote unquote template off the internet and using that, and then putting our name where the other company's name was, and trying to change the state and make it as much our own as possible, to using some other attorneys, and what I've found is and something that has hit home with me, I'm sorry, and I'll just say this too. Then there was that point of not using any kind of contract at all, getting anything signed, right? Because let's face it, two things come up when you're starting a business and you have to do this, and that's cost. So that becomes a major thing, and then there's time, right? I want to hurry up. I want to get this contract. I want to get this client on the books, right? And I don't have enough money to pay $5,000, $3,000, $10,000, whatever the cost may be, to get an attorney to draft something for me. And then I don't know what I really need. That becomes the other issue, right? But what I've learned is, first and foremost, outside of all the legalities that a contract can protect you from, it also sets terms for what you're actually doing with your client. You have an agreement now of, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is, more importantly, what we're not going to do or not be responsible for. And I think we miss that a lot when we think about, contracts. Everyone thinks I need a contract to make sure I don't get sued. But get sued for what, right? I guess is the real answer. Yeah. And I think that's why it's very important. So, we've gone through various stages of this to, I will say, maturing intellectually enough to know that we need a contract for every single client, and then we need the right contract and, using the right service to help us get there.
Yeah, I think and for full disclaimer, we are also a Monjur client as well, and utilizing the service. And so, I think one of the items that was discussed these last 2 days here at PAX 8 was 2024 is the year of the platform. And being that the platform is really something that a lot of MSPs and just business clients are looking to adhere to make things easy for themselves. But we're also on this cusp of AI. And I think that this has been a very big topic. I believe you even are on the speaking circuit quite a few times in the past year, if not 2 years, really discussing about how AI has such a different approach, and just the ability for an MSP to adopt it once, but two, the legal ramifications behind it as well. Do you want to share a little bit about kind of how you have been perceiving AI? How has Monjur really been assisting to help educate, and not only educate, but help mitigate some of that risk for those that are having some of those agreements in play?
Yeah, so I think we all are of the opinion that AI is the next big thing, and wrestling with how we're going to deal with that in our own businesses and as MSPs, how we're going to help our clients navigate that. I was fortunate that I started really studying AI years ago from an intellectual property perspective, because I knew that AI was going to create legal issues that didn't exist in software before. Simple example is, we didn't ever have something like learnings, and there was no way to describe who was going to own that based on traditional contracts. And so I've been thinking about and working in the area of AI for a number of years. In fact, long before ChatGPT and the large language models really shook up the world with their incredible capabilities. In March of this year, we launched our AI bundle, which is an optional bundle for the Monjur Contracts as a Service platform, and it's designed for the MSPs who want to help their customers implement AI solutions. We also encourage all of our subscribers to list all of the vendors that they're using for AI as part of their schedule of third-party services, which is also part of the Monjur platform. So there's a distinction between AI tools that you're using and helping customers with AI solutions. When MSPs are helping customers with AI solutions, their current agreements, and even our master services agreement and service attachment for managed services were not adequate to protect the MSP and or to make it clear what was being delivered. So we created a bundle that includes 2 types of policies for AI, and then the service attachment that you need to offer the services like Copilot, for example, or conversational voice solutions through vendors like Hats AI and others. And so if you're thinking about AI, what we recommend is sit down with each of your clients and ask them 3 questions. What's your policy? What's your strategy? And what's your plan? On the answer to policy is going to be one of 2. I don't want to use it. I'm afraid of it. I don't want my trade secrets getting lost. I want it locked down. I want to make sure my employees know, and that's fine. For those people, you've got a policy that sets forth the fact that it's not to be used, and then you have a project to lock down certain URLs, to sequester certain apps, to monitor firewall activity, to do exception reporting if people are using it. So even if the customer is anti-AI, you can still get a project from that conversation. Most of the clients, however, are going to be interested in how you can use AI to automate routine practices, to deliver better customer service, to accelerate sales, to increase efficiency, to increase employee satisfaction. And so they're going to be open to a discussion. And for those, there's a number of services that you could offer, very similar to the services that you've always offered. Tools assessment, workshops, procurement help, deployment, training, support, everything that you've done your whole time you've been an MSP, it's going to be the same with these AI solutions. The difference is you need a very unique agreement for AI to protect you when you start offering those services. The traditional agreements focused on managed services will not adequately cover.
I think that's such a big thing to really understand, and how Rob really explained it. We've been talking about AI for the past 2 days on how to adopt it, how to train against it, how the marketing is not aligning with what you can do out of the box, the client demand for it. But I think you said it really eloquently, is the fact of you ask them 3 questions. Ask them these 3 questions and figure out where your client is before you even dive into the section of AI, whether that is Copilot, a Hats AI, or some type of AI service you're planning to try and include and assemble all together. I think you have that ability of being able to understand your client much better by having that conversation. And 2, being prepared, utilizing the Monjur service with those policies on still being able to provide project work to do so. It's actually a really great opportunity for those that are really trying to look into AI as well. But kind of from what you've heard this past weekend, past weekend for the last couple of days on what PAX8's perception of where AI will go, has that changed kind of what you've seen in your investigation, or is still really charting the course of what you expect and to improve on when it comes to services and things of that nature for an MSP?
Yeah, I think that, and I said this early on, is that, I've been in the space for a long time, and what I've learned is where Microsoft goes, so goes the channel. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't be any more true than someone like PAX8, whose business in large measure is, to sell Microsoft solutions, including Copilot. So, I always knew that Microsoft was going to drive this revolution for AI, and it's going to be the anchor product. Copilot will be the anchor product against which MSPs assemble a variety of other solutions in a stack to deliver a broad array of AI solutions, mostly aimed at accelerating sales and marketing, improving customer service and support, and automating routine functions.
Very cool, very cool. Rick, anything you want to chime in on any of that?
No, I just think it's important. Again, one of those things where we don't think about the impact of what we're doing, and from a legal standpoint, from any different standpoint, because for the most part, we think of AI as just another product, right? So we're just another product we throw into our stack, or a Copilot as just another product. And I think it's important, to know that it changes the game and it changes the way we are, it affects our client's business. So it's important to be protected from that. And this is something that I would imagine 90% of us out there don't know, and we'll just go into it not kind of blindly from a legality standpoint. And so I think it's an important point to know.
Yeah. The other thing that I think a lot of MSPs right now are interested in AI, but they don't really know like how they're going to get into it or where it's going to take them, or they're having a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
And I think just by following my strategy of talking to your clients, they're going to tell you where to go. Like the results of those meetings with your clients, when you ask them those 3 questions, they're going to take you where you need to go with your AI practice, because they're going to cause you to go out and find the solutions that are necessary. And instead of having this vast world of options to think about, it's going to be a lot easier because customer A needs this, and you're going to go find it for customer A. And so I just think having the conversation is the best place to start. And the other thing that I want to say is we're evolving to a phase of managed services. I believe we're coming out of the cybersecurity phase and we're entering the AI phase. And what I mean by that is 10 or 15 years ago, I would tell MSPs who didn't consider themselves cybersecurity experts that you're in the cybersecurity business whether you want to be or not. Your clients will make sure that you have cybersecurity expertise, and if you don't, you'll be irrelevant. And that turned out to be true. And today what I'm telling clients is you can't differentiate yourself in this crowded market with cybersecurity offerings or responsiveness or good service, because those 2 things are expected in today's market. So the way to differentiate yourself in sales and marketing is to lead with AI. Every small business owner cares about the impact of AI and the opportunity that AI presents. And the MSP is in the unique position as the trusted advisor to help those customers navigate that journey.
I think the biggest thing too, as you just mentioned, and it was highlighted as a stat over this past 2 days, was if you are not if you're not leading with AI, and MSPs who have been surveyed, are you going to lead into AI or not? For those that are not, understand that 80% of those that were surveyed know that they will be at a disadvantage without incorporating some type of version of AI. And exactly like what Rob just mentioned, a small business or a mid-market business, depending on who you're aiming for, a business cares about 3 specific things. They're going to care about their cash flow, increasing sales, reducing their costs, and expanding their market share. And if you can address one of those 3 key points for a business, you have so much more of a head and a leeway to just being successful in that practice than you were not having those conversations. And you should be having these conversations with your clients in the first place, whether that is on a QBR, a TBR, or if you're a smaller shop and unable to make it quarterly, there should be an annual discussion. There should be conversations regularly happening so you can understand the pulse of your client's business, so that, as you mentioned, as that trusted advisor, we're soon going to become no longer a service provider. We're going to be a strategic business advisor and really diving in. And I think for those that have a vertical specification will succeed a little bit further, or those that have a specific size of business, if they tailor it and tighten that up, fairly close. Rick, when it comes to in AI, I know you have been very what's the best word to say?
Slow.
Hesitant.
Yes.
To embrace the AI approach. Can you share a little bit about why that is, and how has discussions today and yesterday hopefully may have released a little bit of that hesitancy and a little bit of pressure that you feel, or has it just anchored you down to understand that you need to learn about it a little bit more before you can even make a decision?
Well, my hesitancy has always been my lack of understanding of where AI was going to fit into, first and foremost, my business, and then into my client's business, right? Understanding, again, I've said this a couple of times already. Initially, when everyone thinks AI, they think ChatGPT. Excuse me,
Say that
get that out,
fast.
right? But it's just more than that, right? So, and I know with the adoption of Copilot, and some of the other language models that are out there, there's a lot more to go. So I've been slow to adopt, just so that I personally understand what I'm doing, what it's capable of doing, and what are some pitfalls that I need to watch out for. So that's been why I've been a little, I'd say I'm excited about the possibilities, but I'm also just slow to adopt so that I understand. I don't want to put myself behind the curve, but I want to understand as we're making the curve. I guess is the best way to say this. Now, I wanted to, if you don't mind, I wanted to take a step back a little bit and talk about something with Monjur, because we've talked about everyone needs an MSA. We talked about the 7 different policies they should have, right? And we talk about an AI policy as well, which I guess now would make 8, right? That sounds like a lot of work, right? It sounds like a lot for us to have to adopt and take on. How, I guess, in the process of working with Monjur, how hard is it to get all of those things? What is the process for us to get all of that done?
You know, the whole purpose of Monjur is to get you out of developing contracts and policies and all of those legal things, and so you could just focus on working with your customer, having these conversations, helping them with strategy. And so for Monjur, it's a done-for service. Monjur is not a DIY platform. These policies are written for you. They show up in your attachments tab in the customer experience portal. And so you think about it as one of our deliverables. All of the policies that we deliver as a service and all of our contracts that we deliver as a service are based on our templates that have been curated over 2 decades and are customized for our larger clients and are updated frequently. And it's really designed to be a solution to get MSPs out of the business of writing policies and contracts.
Yeah, and I just think that's important because we again, when we think about all the things we need to do in business, and again, we think about it's a daunting task to have to know this, but again, we talk about being able to focus on what you need to do. As an MSP, I have these responsibilities, and I leave rather than trying to do it myself. I need to leave or learn to subcontract out, for lack of a better word, the expertise to the quote unquote expert of the scenario. So I just wanted to let everyone. I'm going through the process now, and it's not a hard process, and this is why I wanted to bring it up so everyone knows that it's not this daunting task where you're sitting down at night pulling your hair out because you don't understand the terminology or you don't understand this or that. You get to, you're asking questions. You have to ask to follow up, right? On your part.
You get
High price babysitter. That's what. Yeah.
And but then the most of what you need is done for you, and we pay the same way our clients pay us to do a job for them. It's the same way we outsource certain things like our legal documents. And I just think I just want to distinguish that it's important that we understand that it's not this huge daunting task to take on to get this right, at least from our perspective.
Yeah, and when people tell me now's not the right time, I ask them, is now not the right time for financial reasons or bandwidth reasons or both? And we're trying to help MSPs with that. For the first time in our history at Monjur, at this show, PAX 8, we announced our first ever free trial. So now you can sign up for Monjur, you can get onboarded with Monjur, and you can check it out with no obligation. All of our agreements come with a 90-day satisfaction guarantee on top of that. And so you can sign up for Monjur, have it fully implemented, start doing quotes and getting money in before you have to start any payments. So we're trying to make it easier for MSPs. We're trying to streamline our onboarding. We've invested heavily in our platform. We've got a lot of resources available in our onboarding team to enhance that journey and that experience for the MSPs. But the typical time to onboard with our essentials package is 14 days, and that's why I need you to hurry up. because one thing that I learned in transitioning from a law firm to a software as a service operation, which is SaaS, does not stand for software as a service. It stands for success as a service. And so with Monjur, we're not going to stop following up with you until we know that you've implemented the comprehensive legal protections that our solution affords. We also know that everybody's busy. You know, Rick, for example, I'm hounding him. I know he's doing 10 shows while he's here. He's got a business to run. He's a busy guy with, you know, kids college age and a lot going on. And so that's why Monjur is always there to help our customers be successful. And it's a much different mindset than I had as a lawyer with Scott and Scott. You know, we did hundreds of engagements. Those engagements were over when we hit send on the email with the Word documents in them. And to think about where we are now with how much further we take our solution than that, it makes me really proud to be part of this this journey that's been the launch of the Monjur platform.
So what I will say is that, and for those that saw the camera and me looking at Rick over when Rob said recording 10 shows, I will say that it does take 14 days to implement the product. It was a very flawless process to go through that. Julie, who was assigned to our project implementation, was amazing. Even looked at what we had previously and to help explain and understand how this should be working, utilizing the Monjur service during the duration of that subscription and being able to have the license to use those agreements, use those systems, and put those in place for a more, in my opinion, a relief to not have to worry about one of those biggest sections of a business, including my own MSP, on trying to provide that care to our clients. So with that, you know, I'll kind of round out the show here, Rob. Is there anything that we didn't touch on in regards to the Monjur service, kind of your feedback or input on AI and everything in between for those that are listening and watching here?
I would just say, first of all, thank you guys for inviting me onto the show. I'm grateful that you guys are using the Monjur platform. You, like everyone in the audience, is going to benefit from the legal protections that it affords. And it's an exciting time to be in managed services. You know, the show atmosphere here, this is an upbeat atmosphere. The managed services industry continues to grow and thrive and evolve and change. And if you're an MSP today, you've got a huge amount of opportunity in front of you. But unfortunately, the risk landscape has changed as well. And because of that, you need contracts that will constantly update to stay abreast of the market changes and the changes in the law. And that's what we built the Monjur platform for.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming on and sharing with us. Rick, any lasting words that you have on your side?
No, I'm going to get it done, Rob. I promise.
Hey, I'm on you, bro. I'm on you, bro. All right.
But I do want to thank you, though. I know it's been a busy day, and I know you're out here working. I know it's been busy, and I thank you for taking the time to spend with us and explain to our audience of what you guys do and the importance of it.
Well, it's a great pleasure to be on with you guys, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Awesome. Rob, if anyone wanted to know more about the Monjur platform, or maybe even to reach out to you to pick your brain on some of the things that they may have some questions on, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So you can schedule some time on my calendar by going to Monjur, MONJUR.com on the web, or you can email me at RobS, ROBS, at Monjur, MONJUR.com.
Awesome. Again, appreciate you coming out here, and really going to be excited to see you again over in one of our favorite events of the year, and that is going to be TechCon Unplugged. Monjur is our platinum sponsor. It is our annual gathering of IT business owners, and it is fast approaching. It is September 12th to the 14th at the Hotel Arundel Preserve in the greater Washington, D.C. area. You're going to be able to join like-minded business owners for a weekend packed with resources to help your IT business thrive. As we've mentioned in previous episodes, your ticket is going to include access to 25 plus educational sessions, 2 networking events and after-hours entertainment, all expo hall meals, refreshments, happy hours, automatic entrance to generous show raffles and giveaways. We truly wanted to make sure that this ticket was inclusive for you when you come into the actual TechCon Unplugged event. But most importantly, you're going to be able to walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. And as I often get made fun of multiple times again, it is where I believe that the magic is where it happens. So tune in every week for this podcast, MSP Unplugged. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also take us with you on the go on your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts, to name a few. We thank you for tuning in, and we will absolutely see you next time at MSP Unplugged.
Yeah.
Do